And there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp. That's how the vision began, a fragment of fire crossing the night. Now, thousands of years later, a new light rises on the edge of sight. Scientists call it Atlas. Others call it a warning. The old name returns, Wormwood. Maybe prophecy doesn't predict, maybe it remembers. Something is stirring above the horizon. At first, it's only a whisper, a smudge against the black. Comet C/2024 G3 Atlas drifts inward, its orbit long and slow, older than any civilization that will ever look up to see it. For millennia, it traveled unseen through the deep cold, far beyond Pluto, where light itself is only a rumor, and yet now it begins to glow, not because it burns, but because it approaches the source of light. That's how comets awaken. Ice turns to vapor. Dust uncoils behind them like breath. They don't create their own brilliance. They borrow it. That's where the unease begins. Because every time something brightens in the heavens, humanity remembers. A verse resurfaces. A name returns. Wormwood. The star that falls, burning like a lamp. What we call science, the ancients called revelation. And sometimes, both are right. Long before telescopes were built, people already had names for the stars. Names carried meaning, not measurement. When something bright appeared where nothing had been before, they didn't ask how far. They asked, why now? And among all those ancient names, one endures like an echo, Wormwood. It appears in the book of Revelation, a vision recorded by a man alone on an island, watching the sky without instruments, guided only by awe. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp. He wrote what he saw, not the mechanics, but the experience. A great star, a descent, a lamp in the sky. Now, as Comet Atlas grows brighter, that same description circulates again, not shouted, whispered. No one claims certainty, yet no one can unsee the resemblance. But the prophecy never said the star would be named Wormwood. It said, the name of the star is called Wormwood. As if the name existed before anyone ever looked up. As if what's unfolding above us was already written, waiting for recognition. In the ancient world, the sky was not empty. It was a living scroll. Every flicker of light carried intention. Every movement whispered message. To the Greeks, a comet marked the rise or fall of kings. To the Babylonians, it was the handwriting of fate. In China, imperial astronomers recorded its path as if it were the pulse of heaven itself. They watched not for spectacle, but for timing, because timing meant alignment between the world of gods and the world of men. To them, nothing above was ever accidental. When John wrote of a star burning like a lamp, he was speaking in the only language his age knew, the language of signs. But if the ancients saw messages in the sky, what do we see now? Equations? Data points? Maybe that's the difference. They looked up and saw meaning. We look up and see measurement. Yet both are describing the same thing, something distant, coming near, something silent, becoming seen. Now the watchers are different. They sit behind screens in mountain observatories and silent deserts, scanning the dark with digital eyes. Their prophets are algorithms, and their scrolls are lines of data.
The Atlas system, designed to warn of threats from space, caught a faint motion in April 2024. The traveler entering sunlight after thousands of years in shadow. The program named it C/2024 G3 Atlas. At first, it was nothing more than a gray smear of pixels, barely distinguishable from noise. Then, week by week, it grew brighter. Astronomers noted its change in tone, brightening faster than expected. There was no panic, only patience. Observation replaced wonder, or so it seemed. But wonder never really left. It only learned new tools. Because even in this age of machines, when the faint blur became a glowing streak, something ancient stirred again. A whisper passed through message boards and late-night forums. It looks like the description. The same old name surfaced uninvited. Wormwood. Every few generations, a light appears in the sky, and the same word rises again. Wormwood. It happened with Halley's Comet in the Middle Ages, said to foretell the fall of kings. It happened again with Hale-Bopp, when panic bloomed online. When the Chernobyl disaster struck, someone noticed that Chernobyl in Ukrainian means wormwood. And now, as Atlas brightens, the pattern repeats. Quiet, familiar, inevitable. It isn't proof, it's memory. Humanity has always searched the heavens for meaning, and when something matches an old description, we call it recognition. Not because we expect apocalypse, but because repetition feels like revelation. Maybe prophecy doesn't predict the future. Maybe it describes the rhythm of human attention. The same light, the same name, the same unease that something far away might matter here again. Patterns like this don't ask for belief. They ask for awareness. Because if it's happened before, and it's happening now, what happens after is rarely random. Every symbol carries a shadow. Wormwood was not just a star. It was a word for bitterness. In the Old Testament, it meant sorrow, poison, disillusion. It was the taste of judgment, the moment when what once gave life turned hard to swallow. So, when John saw a burning star and named it Wormwood, he wasn't describing destruction. He was describing transformation, the moment when something trusted begins to change. Today, the word still means the same thing, only the stage has grown larger. Water that once refreshed now carries salt and metal. Rivers run thinner each year. The planet's foundation, quiet, steady, vital, begins to shift. Bitterness seeps in slowly, just as the comet brightens slowly. Maybe Wormwood was never about fire from above. Maybe it was always about what changes after. The sky dazzles, but it's the water that keeps us alive. And when the water changes, the world follows, quietly, steadily, without warning. And the waters became wormwood. That single line from Revelation sits like a seed inside the story, quiet but alive. The focus was never the falling star. It was what happened afterward. The water changed, not violently, not instantly, gradually, invisibly, until the taste was different, and no one could say when it began. That is how transformation hides, in what we trust most. Our rivers, our rain, the invisible veins of the world. They carry life until they don't. Salt creeps into deltas. Drought carves through once green valleys. Microplastics float in the deepest trenches. No trumpet sounds, no catastrophe announces itself. Only a slow, steady turning. The prophecy was never about fire. It was about the aftertaste. Because bitterness doesn't shout, it lingers. And perhaps that's the real wormwood, not the comet in the sky, but the quiet realization that the foundation beneath us is changing, and we almost didn't notice. We have always looked upward to understand ourselves. Every age finds its own wormwood, not because the sky repeats, but because we do. We are pattern-seeking creatures, tracing meaning across the stars to make sense of the silence between them. A bright object appears, and something deep inside us stirs. Memory disguised as prophecy.
We tell ourselves we're different now, guided by reason, not myth. But even our algorithms are dreamers. They watch the same sky for signs of movement, for warnings written in light. Maybe nothing has changed except the language. The ancients called it omen. We call it data. Yet both are expressions of the same question. What is coming toward us? Perhaps the prophecy was never a message from heaven at all. Perhaps it's a mirror held up to the human heart, reminding us that what we fear in the stars is only what we've already begun on earth. The bitterness, the change, the quiet forgetting. The sky just helps us see it. Night after night, Comet Atlas climbs higher.
Its tail stretches, a pale thread across the dark, drawn by forces it cannot resist. Each day it grows brighter, not through fire, but through reflection. It shines only because it has come close enough to light. That is its beauty and its warning. Astronomers record its magnitude, its arc, its predicted glow. They say it may soon be visible to the naked eye, a single moving spark among the fixed stars. And yet the sky does not announce itself. It whispers. Its changes are patient, deliberate, ancient. Above us, something brightens. Below, something shifts. The two are not disconnected. The ancients saw this moment as revelation, the instant when what was hidden becomes impossible to ignore. Maybe that moment is returning. Maybe the sky is speaking again, not in thunder, but in quiet light. There are nights when the sky feels unchanged, still, eternal, untouchable. And then something begins to move. Not loudly, not suddenly, just enough for the attentive to notice. Comet Atlas continues its long path toward the sun, quiet, measured, unwavering. Its light grows, its presence deepens. Nothing about it demands fear, and yet it feels familiar, as if the world has been here before. Every era meets its own reflection in the sky. Sometimes it's a sign of wonder. Sometimes it's a mirror of warning. The prophecy of Wormwood was never about the end. It was about awareness, about the moment when what has always been there finally becomes visible. Somewhere between darkness and dawn, a traveler crosses into light. Its tail glows like memory rekindled. The world turns, unaware beneath it. For now there are no trumpets, no voices, no fire, only a silence waiting to be heard. The sky has not spoken yet, but it's almost ready to.